Sisters and brothers, we will be hearing about DSF, so just a short word from the gospel. In our culture, it's not uncommon for comedians to pick on mothers-in-laws, right? Mothers-in-laws, we have all kinds of tales about mothers-in-laws. Today we encounter Peter's mother-in-law. I think the important thing for us is not Peter's mother-in-law as somebody who's lovable or unlovable, because she is absolutely lovable by God. Because Peter's mother-in-law stands for each one of us. Of the 8 billion people in the world, there are us who are gathered here this morning, loved by God, so special to God. And Peter's mother-in-law represents what so often happens to us in life. There are moments when we're sick, when we're unhealthy. Sometimes that unhealthy is a spiritual unhealthiness. It's when we begin, what happens when we're sick? A couple of weeks ago, I had COVID for the second time, and I thought the whole world revolved around me, right? I felt lousy. Nobody else should feel that good, right? That's what sickness does for us. It brings us and focuses on ourselves. But the story of Peter's mother-in-law is really about the circle of grace. It's a lesson for all of us, sisters and brothers, that when we know grace isn't about us. Paul says it. He says it, when I proclaim the gospel, then I'm made rich. When I share the grace and blessings I have received, then I am made rich. That we don't become 100-fold, 20-fold, 50-fold rich, as the prosperity gospel might tell us, just by obeying the rules and doing the right things. We become rich because love returns to us. Grace returns to us if we but share our grace with others. How we do that, there's so many ways in our lives. But what we see in Peter's mother-in-law is so simple, because it is the truth of the circle of grace. There she is, sick with a fever, in need of grace. Christ comes to her, touches her, raises her up, and what does she do? Waits on him. What does Paul do in his conversion? Immediately, as he is enriched with the grace of the gospel, it is to proclaim the gospel, and Paul says it to us, I became a slave to all. I did everything I could. And for that, we know Paul is one of the greatest of the saints in the history of the church. Grace given away, sisters and brothers, is indeed what makes us rich.
It's easy to feel isolated today, to feel that we are all on our own. Even in how we experience our faith lives, it can be difficult to distinguish between individual prayer and isolation. It can be challenging to appreciate just how interconnected our faith community is. When we enter into our sacred spaces, we have to make an effort to separate ourselves from the ways of the world. Anxiety, stress, a need for distraction, and a feeling that everything depends solely on us. Our Catholic faith encourages us to remember that we are not our own, that the weight of the world does not land fully on our shoulders, that we are in communion with one another, and that our lives are meant to be lived with a love for our neighbor. Whether young or old, rich or poor, sick or healthy, filled with faith or struggling, we are called to recognize that we are the Lord's. And because we are the Lord's, we are deeply and uniquely connected to one another as the people of God. Through Jesus Christ, we are meant to live our faith in a way and a manner that transforms us. As Catholics, we are connected to others beyond those we share a pew with on Sunday morning. We are connected to our fellow Catholics in other churches, throughout our neighborhoods, throughout the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, and throughout the world. Through the Diocesan Services Fund, we are able to joyfully live out the command of Jesus to love one another as a wider community. DSF allows this local church to provide 64 ministries that do what no one parish can accomplish on its own. Supporting the Diocesan Services Fund allows each of us to play a hand in educating and forming the next generation of faithful Catholics through our 55 Catholic elementary and high schools. Over 17,000 students benefit every year from a truly Catholic education that molds the whole person, mind, body, and soul. An additional 75,000 children and adults are instructed through catechetical programs in our parishes, helping to spread the truth and beauty of the Catholic faith. With a gift to the Diocesan Services Fund, you are helping numerous ministries to feed the hungry, to assist abused spouses and children, to accompany veterans in gaining employment, and helping the homeless. As a Catholic community, we are also committed to remembering those who are so readily forgotten in our society. DSF-supported ministries care for the sick by providing medical and spiritual care, for the imprisoned and troubled youth, for those at sea and working in dangerous occupations, and for the elderly, expecting mothers, and those in need of Christ's healing love. The Diocesan Services Fund also helps prepare our seminarians to become good and holy priests by supporting their education at St. Mary's Seminary and elsewhere throughout the United States and abroad. The hundreds of priests and deacons who minister in the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, receive constant encouragement and training to serve this local church through DSF-supported programs. And as our priests complete active ministry and enter into retirement, they receive the resources necessary to continue praying for and supporting the church. Our faith calls us together to love, to serve, to give, and to pray as one community in Christ.
Brothers and sisters, we are the Lord's, because all we do as Catholic Christians is oriented toward the love of neighbor and toward the glorification of God's holy name. We are formed into God's own people. The 64 ministries supported by DSF educate, serve, gather, and sanctify us. They allow us to work together in carrying out the mission of the church, which no individual or parish can do alone. Through the Diocesan Services Fund, we become icons of Christ in the world by demonstrating the charity of Christ through concrete actions. Join me in making a gift to DSF today.
As you were coming into church today, you received one of these envelopes, which is an invitation to respond to being the Lord's, to that circle of grace. The opportunity today is you might consider a pledge, you might consider a gift. At the doors of the church, we'll have the opportunity for you to drop in the collection. If you need to take it home and pray and think about exactly what you want to do, you're welcome to drop it in the mail or bring it back next week. The DSF is one of the important ways that we have an opportunity to continue these 64 ministries. So we want to take a moment and give you a chance to reflect, pray, and complete your card if you are ready to do so. If you need one, you came in, we have, just raise your hand if you need one and we'll make sure you get one in hand as well. With that, we might spend some moment in prayer and completing our forms.
Please like, subscribe, or comment below.